Hi guys, Alec, Peirce Scuba, Vintage Scuba. Here we are. It's the spring of 2019. A whole new series of Vintage Scuba episodes for you to enjoy. I hope so. It is spring. You saw the pussy willows. I thought I'd have Kevin show you pussy willows. I'm not sure how many of you have seen pussy willows in the last little while, but of course here in the country they're very, very common. We're here to talk about vintage scuba, and right here in my hands I have a fantastic piece of vintage scuba diving gear. Now obviously it's a spear gun. You can see that. Spear gun, spearfishing. The beginning of our sport that we love so much, it was all about spearfishing. That's what it was. Scuba diving, I wouldn't say developed from spearfishing, but the first 10 years of the growth of the sport of scuba diving was based on spearfishing. Everybody spearfished. I'm going to do a vintage scuba episode on early activities, the crazy things we did when back in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, wrestled octopuses. Anyway, this spear gun is a very special spear gun. We've already done a couple of spear gun episodes. I'm going to do a couple of more because somebody did ask about different propulsion methods, the different ways that spear guns would shoot the shaft. Rubber and compressed air and springs, even gunpowder. Yeah. But this is a special gun. Let me tell you about it very quickly. It's quite rare. You don't find these at your local dive store. You don't even find them on most vintage sites. You won't even find them very often on vintage spear gun sites. Yeah, the sport of scuba diving has produced many, many different facets. One of them is collecting, and some people collect masks. Some people collect double hose regulators. Hi, Rob. Some people collect single hose regulators. Sorry, Rob. And some people collect spear guns, and there actually are a good number of vintage spear gun collections in the world. Several are in Europe, but there are some. But it's very difficult to find an Alcedo Hydra. I don't know if you can get in there, Kevin. Can you get in there close enough to actually show the name? Alcedo is the name of the brand, if you like, of the spear gun, like Chevrolet, and Hydra is the model. So like Chevy, I don't know what the Chevy make, Corvette. Okay, so Chevy, Corvette, Alcedo Hydra, Alcedo Hydra. Anyway, beautiful gun, big, heavy, beautiful. Has all the usual features: trigger, safety on it, nice and long. It's probably 5 feet long at least. And this gun, if you have any knowledge at all about vintage guns, you can probably recognize fairly quickly that this is a compressed air gun or a gas gun, compressed gas gun. In this case, it's air. And you would know that because it has what appears to be a cylinder at the back. And it is a cylinder. It looks like a small scuba tank, okay, on the back. And that's quite common. A lot of guns were made this way. Mares made them Cressy. Very, very famous Nemrod made a very well-known series of compressed gas guns. And they used a variety of ways to propel the shaft. This is a fairly common, although this shaft is bigger than most. But the actual spear shaft itself was a fairly heavy shaft, probably the size of your little finger. And on the end, one end, it was O-ring sealed. So the inside of this barrel was very smooth, and the shaft went in, the O-ring sealed on that smooth interior surface, and it slid all the way back and snapped into place on at the back on what's called the sear, and that's where the trigger would activate that. Now, one of the nice things about, there are every different type of gun, and we'll talk about this when I talk about the different types. Every different type of gun based on the propulsion system had advantages and some disadvantages. One of the advantages of a compressed gun, a gas gun, is that it's very easy to load. If you ever tried to load a spring-powered gun or a rubber sling powered gun, you know that it can be a struggle, particularly if it's a big gun. And some big guns have 2 or 3 slings on them, yes, and you have to put on 2 or 3 if it's a big fish. And it's a lot of work because you essentially are putting in the force into the rubber sling that will then be released and used to power the shaft. With a gun like this, you just slide the shaft in. One hand, one finger, it goes down, click, and it's in. And then when you're ready to shoot and you pull the trigger, then the gas is released from the cylinder, builds up behind the spear, and out the spear goes. It's really very simple. But that's one of the advantages. There are disadvantages as well, which we'll discuss some other time. Today I just want to talk about the Alcedo Hydra. So what's unique about this gun? First of all, it's very rare. There weren't very many of these made, and they were very, very expensive. Very sophisticated gun. Aluminum, stainless steel, and aluminum at that time was very expensive. And so it was very sophisticated gun and quite expensive, so a lot of divers didn't buy them. Secondly, it had one very unique feature. Most compressed gas guns, all the ones I've mentioned, you pump the air into the gas cylinder before you go diving. And then when you put the shaft in, you actually push the piston down. So that does take quite a bit of force for that type of compressed gas gun. This one's a little bit different. This one, you take the pump with you. Watch. You recognize down here, right here? Right there. It's like a bicycle pump. So I'm actually pumping the compressed gas, air, into the gun at any time. The pump sits right there on it. That's pretty unique. It was quite unique. Done on the surface, of course, but at least you didn't have to go fishing for the pump and to take off the cap and screw the pump in. It was all built in. One complete unit just like that. So it's a very rare gun. Don't see them very often, the Alcedo Hydra. And it has one other special feature, which I didn't tell Kevin before I started this little spiel about the Alcedo Hydra. This gun was used in sea hunt. Yes, one episode only. In one episode only, Mike Nelson reaches into the back of his Jeep and he pulls out a spear gun. And he walks down the water, down the beach, into the water, and off he goes. And he carries his gun with him into the water, and he carries his gun into the water. And you see the gun, this gun, for a total of maybe 10 minutes. Not continuously, but in a 10-minute section of one episode of the 155 episodes of Sea Hunt, Mike Nelson carries his gun. Now, it took quite a while before we could recognize the gun because it's odd. It looks a little bit weird, odd. And we, taking pictures from 60-year-old 16mm films is not hard. It took us a little while to figure out what gun it was, but eventually between myself and the Sea Hunt group, Mike helped as well. I want to say thanks to Mike. We discovered that this was the Alcedo Hydra, and I have one. So it's a very special gun. Unique. Very sophisticated, gas-powered, built-in pump, very strong gun, and used in sea hunt as well. So you sea hunt collectors, there you go. You vintage spear gun collectors, there you go. Alcedo Hydra. We're going to do some more on spear guns, so if you do have any interest in spear guns, or even if you don't have an interest, but you're interested in the history of the sport, keep watching my Vintage Scuba videos. I hope to make it interesting for you. Okay, that's it for today. Talk to you soon. Alec, Peirce Scuba.